What is happening, everybody? James Hancock here. Just got out of seeing the new movie Duel, starring Karen Gillan and Aaron Paul, and I wanted to offer a quick spoiler-free review in case people are looking for a cool flick to see this weekend. This movie is from writer-director Riley Stearns, who's a relatively new filmmaker. I never saw Stearns' first movie, Faults, but I loved his last movie, The Art of Self-Defense, starring Jesse Eisenberg. I thought it was absolutely hysterical. And what his style reminds me of a bit are those like really cool, dry, almost kind of deadpan comedies from the 1990s. Like, for whatever reason, indie cinema had these really cool voices back then. People like Todd Solondz, who's very different in tone than Riley Stearns, but he made a lot of really sensational dark comedies. Or someone like Hal Hartley, who was the Jean-Luc Godard of Long Island. But sadly, over the last 10 or 15 years, we've seen a lot of those kind of cool, distinctive, idiosyncratic indie voices just kind of get eclipsed by a lot of the chaos and white noise of the internet. So I'm thrilled to see a distinctive original filmmaker like Riley Stearns making modestly budgeted, modestly scaled movies that actually play in multiplexes. I saw this at an AMC here in Manhattan. But if you don't know the premise for Duel, it's an unusual scenario where Karen Gillan's character believes she is dying, and as a way of kind of sparing her loved ones the sadness of her premature death, in the context of this world, which is a kind of a very loose sci-fi world with a few little twists to make it slightly different from our own, but in this environment, people who are facing their imminent demise have the option of creating a clone that they kind of will teach to be like them in the time they have remaining, and that's supposed to help make people feel better. But where they run into problems is that sometimes the people who think they're going to die take too long to do so, or maybe they don't die at all. And then when that happens, the new clone has certain rights or certain legal protection. And what ends up happening more often than not is a duel to the death, basically as like part of some sort of deranged reality TV entertainment where you just get a table full of weapons and a table full of weapons and you just get down to it. And sure enough, Karen Gillan's character is one of those people who finds themselves in this really strange scenario, but like the duel to the death and the sci-fi premise are almost kind of like the backdrop. Where this movie really shines is with all these really strange, often ruthless comments and observations about human nature and the way we treat each other. Just little moments like when Karen Gillan is worried about the cost of creating a clone, they explain to her, well, don't worry, if you die in your duel, all the bills related to creating the clone, they'll just get passed on to your clone. And it's like, this creature hasn't even been created yet, and already it's in debt. And this movie is filled with those kind of deadpan comedic beats. And if you're wondering whether or not this style of comedy will be for you, you can watch probably like 10 or 15 seconds of the trailer and know within moments whether or not you're going to kind of vibe with this style of comedy. Because as much as I enjoyed it, I'm the first to admit, this is not broad comedy. It's a very specific tone, it's a very specific style. It's very ironic, it's very detached, it's very cool. Some might say it's almost bordering on ruthless, but what I like about this style of comedy is that it's not remotely sentimental, it's not remotely manipulative, it's not broad at all. And in the world of movies over the last 10 years, sadly, comedy has just been dying this like slow, horrible, painful death. So I, for one, am just relieved to see somebody who excels at dark comedy making a movie only a few years after his previous movie. I don't know how well The Art of Self-Defense did, but Duel was shot under horrible circumstances during COVID. They had to go to friggin' Finland to find a location where they could get this movie made. But Finland, by the way, is absolutely beautiful. More people should make movies in Finland. But getting back to the style of humor, this is a kind of movie that will appeal to people who attend a funeral and can't help but like try to lighten the mood by cracking jokes. Some people might say, well, that's inappropriate. You should not be telling jokes at funerals. But sometimes a little gallows humor goes a long way in making people feel better. So I think there'll be some people out there who are like, hell yeah, bring on more Duel. And I like how the movie is so matter-of-fact about all this really grim, dark shit. Just the fact that like Karen Gillan is projectile vomiting blood in her sleep and at the doctor's office and that sort of thing. And she doesn't even bat an eye. And I think the reason this movie works is that Karen Gillan is just so goddamn game. She hits a home run with the character. And I've been loving her in things like, Doctor Who or Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, she's had a lot of success as an actress in recent years. And even in movies that I don't like at all, like Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, she was sensational. So she's definitely one of those actresses where she elevates whatever project she might be appearing in. And where she really excels in this movie is with the physical comedy. She's just a master of using her body in ways where it's very athletic, but just absolutely has you howling. Like, she admits to her martial arts instructor that she's not really into getting into shape, but she needs to, obviously, because she's about to have this duel to the death. So one of her solutions to getting in shape is to take these hip hop dance classes. And there's something about watching her like completely serious and like totally earnest going through all these elaborate moves that it's a very specific style of comedy, but it just works for me. And what helps is that she has a very good dance partner in the form of Aaron Paul. Aaron Paul obviously has been delighting people ever since the first season of Breaking Bad. I guess he was also on that show Big Love as well. But he's absolutely incredible as her self-defense coach. And they have these great scenes where they're kind of walking through different possibilities and outcomes, like, you know, stabbing people and killing people, etc. And the way they're describing what would happen during certain moves, it's so detached. It's almost like listening to like computer software or artificial intelligence reading like audio erotica. Like it should have all this emotion and weight, but it doesn't. And speaking of self-defense, Riley Stearns, he knows wherever he speaks. I follow his social media, and he's actually been practicing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for like 9 or 10 years. And for people who out there who don't know, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is one of the key martial arts that's used in mixed martial arts. If you don't know Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, well, every single match you're going to lose from somebody, you know, snapping your elbow or shredding your knee or choking you out. It's one of the key disciplines out there, and it's brutal work. I attended a few classes and realized that I'm a physical coward, and I don't like getting my ass kicked on a regular basis. So my hat is off to anybody who can stick with it. And Riley Stearns is actually a brown belt, which means that he can kick all of our asses. But what I like is how, whether you're talking about the art of self-defense or Duel, he tackles the subject of combat and self-defense with incredible humor and authenticity all at once. And what I dislike about the way that martial arts are often portrayed in film and television, you can tell the people writing these shows and movies basically haven't upped their knowledge or updated their knowledge since like the 1980s. And for people out there who don't know, pretty much every form of martial arts has gone through like these enormous evolutions, like evolving in leaps and bounds over the last few decades, whether they're talking about Greco-Roman wrestling or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or Taekwondo or Muay Thai or whatever the case might be. Just the fact that mixed martial arts is so huge now, it's really forced everybody to up their game, or your martial art just stops being relevant. And I hope that Riley Stearns just becomes like the go-to martial arts guy moving forward, because he's one of the only guys who's kind of found like the strange humor that's at the core of every master and student relationship. But all martial arts aside, I think Riley Stearns just has a unique storytelling voice, and I'm always going to be first in line to see anything that he makes. The big question is whether or not it's worth getting in your car, driving to a theater, slapping down your do-re-mi, and seeing this in the flesh. And I can't speak for everybody, because as much as I want people to see this movie, as much as I want it to succeed, it's not going to be equally appealing to everybody. It's definitely niche. So I think, yeah, watch the trailer. If it grabs you, please go, because there's so few modestly scaled productions in the world of movies these days. You either have like movies made for $5 in black and white, people talking in rooms and like looking into their belly button, or you've got some giant Marvel extravaganza. But once upon a time, there are a lot of movies that were in that kind of middle range. And I think Riley Stearns could be one of those people like Todd Solondz or Hal Hartley, where he puts together an incredible body of work over time. So I'm rooting for him all the way. But speaking of going to the theater, I get it if people don't want to go, because almost every time I go to the theater, I have a wretched experience, either due to the theater being disgusting or the bathrooms being disgusting, or like tonight, I'm sitting there watching the trailers and I keep hearing this weird noise behind me. I'm like, what is that strange sound? And whenever I turn around, I can't quite place it, but when the movie starts, and the movie's kind of quiet to start, I suddenly hear either like voicemails or like instruction, but somebody's got their phone on in speaker mode, and it's just this voice in French just blathering away. And I was like, turn your goddamn phone off. And they kind of messed with it, and they turned it down a little bit, and the voice kept going. And I was like, turn it off, turn it off. And the guy looks at me like I'm the psycho and goes, off, 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 off. But then finally put the phone away in his jacket. But it's like, how am I the bad guy for telling somebody to turn their goddamn phone off? Anyway, New York is full of people who don't understand how to behave in public when you're going to have like a shared experience of something that demands people actually pay attention. Not everybody gives a fuck about listening to your voicemail, but anyway, I don't want to get too derailed about the often disappointing behavior of audience members in New York. But I say that of all the cities in the world that I've been to see movies, New Yorkers typically get an F. What I love about New Yorkers is that they go to the movies in droves. We have so many movie theaters, so many revival houses. New Yorkers fucking love movies. We are the movie-going capital of the United States. So that's awesome. So I guess I'll forgive some shitty behavior, but goddamn, man, like going to the movies is my greatest pleasure on this planet. And over the last 20 years or so, cell phones have basically ruined it. So anyway, I'm officially getting totally off topic. Just as a way of finishing up, everybody, take a look at the trailer for Duel. If it grabs you, please go see it. And if you want to see what Riley Stern's style is all about, check out The Art of Self-Defense. It's already available online. It came out 3 years ago. Funny as fucking shit. I'm a big fan. So hope you enjoyed this reaction and review. If so, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell. But hope everyone has an amazing weekend. But more importantly, as always, onwards and upwards.